Hey, what's up, naughty community? Welcome back to my naughty hobby with Amber for another easy to follow crochet tutorial. Today I'm going to be combining a couple of, different how-tos with a new stitch. This is the double linen stitch, and also we will be creating this headband, which it provides a firm hold with the help of a hair tie. So if you want to follow along today, you will need a ponytail loop or hair tie, however you refer to them, a wide-eye sewing needle. I'm going to be using a 5mm hook and some acrylic worsted weight yarn. You can use whatever you have available to you though. I found that a medium weight does work pretty well, but you could even go smaller. You would just need to make it longer, do more rows than what we actually do in the tutorial today. And so again, this is what the front of it looks like. And this is after being worn a little bit, so it's stretched out. If you choose to do, this is also a headband that I did without the ponytail. It doesn't hold quite as firm as the one that has the ponytail ring, but it's still, if you wanted to use this as an ear warmer, it would be great for that as well. But we are going to do just this little guy here. Here is, if you were to flip it, it's the same on both sides. And maybe I'll keep it in view while I still have a few people joining and jumping on. Again, I'll be using a 5mm hook, and you need a ponytail ring to follow along. And because I'm such a huge fan of brights, I will be using Yarn Bee's Soft Secret in hot pink. You don't need very much for this project though. Good morning, Aunt Lori. Yesterday I took some pictures of the sweater that you made me. Probably like, what's it been, like 15 years now? Anyways, because I've been wearing it so much over the years, it's, kind of started coming unraveled. So one of my projects during this next week is going to be to repair it. And I'll have pictures of that up for you guys once it's all complete. But let's go ahead and get started on this headband. Like I said, you will need this ponytail ring, and this is probably the most difficult part of the project, but I'm gonna go slow and make it as easy as possible for you guys. Starting off can be a little tricky. Hi Lisa, I'm doing pretty good today. Thank you for asking. I hope everybody else is feeling well. Okay, so to get started around your ponytail ring, I don't start with a slip knot or anything. And that's what makes it just a little bit tricky. And in order to get the double linen stitch to work up, you need to have an odd number in your bases. So I just looped it over here, and I'm going to do 2 chains with it. And see how it's loose and it feels not very secure at the moment. I'm going to hold that tail with my right hand here to keep a little bit of tension on there. Now we're going to work half double crochets, and we are going to do a total of, let's do 9 and see how 9 looks. So there's the first. I can go ahead and release that tail now because that first half double crochet is going to hold my work in place. There's 7. 8, and 9. So far your piece should be looking something like this. We'll just double check. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9. So that would be considered like our foundation of this little project. Thanks, Lisa. Hi, Marcy. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Before we move forward though, I found, so this tail doesn't get in the way, I'm going to go ahead and weave this tail in right now, just so I don't have to fuss with it later. And I don't want to pull it tight because I don't want to pucker my stitches. So I'm going through the threads here. And I don't pull it tight, but this will be considered like the inside of the work. Or the wrong side, however you know it with patterns or when you're working something up. Sometimes you have a right and a wrong side. And I always go through 3 times, because when you go through 3 times, you know, it's going to prevent your work from ever coming unraveled. Where are my scissors? Not the best scissors ever, but hey, they get the job done. Okay. So there is our beginning. We have our 9 half double crochets around our ponytail. Okay, so we've done our chain 1. Now into the first stitch, we're going to place a single crochet. We're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, working into the next, a single crochet. Chain 1. We're going to follow that all the way across this little row. And then a single crochet into our last stitch here. Now, the big part of this is that we are creating these chain spaces to work into. And so when you first start out, you're going to have 2 of the same rows, but then we're going to follow a 4-row repeat to get the double linen stitch. So our second row will be just the same, where we chain 1, turn our work, and then we will work again a single crochet, chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and single crochet in the next. So this would be actually considered row 1 now. So it should be looking like that. Now we're going to work row 2. When we work the rows, they're all basically going to be worked pretty much the same, except for how many single crochets we start with and end with. Again, keeping in mind that we want our beginning to always match our end. That'll help you out. And after you work this a few times, it's going to become a lot easier. It's going to bug me. Okay, so for the row 2, we'll do a single crochet, and then we're going to do a long loop single crochet, but we're going to go 2 rows below, and that is where we will work our first pulled up. So we're going down right here, that first space that we created. and do a long, you just want it to match the height of your other stitches. So I loosely pull up and do a single crochet. You'll chain one, skip your next stitch, and find that second space. There it is. We should have one more right here. Now we want to look back. We did that single crochet and then the long single crochet. So single crochet and then just in the regular space, single. So our end matches our beginning. For row 3, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. Now we're going to start by doing a single crochet in the next 2. And see how with this single crochet it went into the V of the long one? That's how you know you're not making long crochets in this row. If that second single crochet goes into the V of the long one of your previous row, chain 1 after that second one, and now we work our single crochets into those V's, into this space right here. Chain 1, skip your chain 1 space, and now we're going to end with 2 single crochets. So this would be considered row 3 of our repeat. Again, keeping in mind that we are only doing 4 rows that we're going to repeat, and they're all done the same. It's just where you're putting your single crochets and your chain stitches. So for the final one, chain 1 and turn your work. You're going to single crochet in your first stitch and chain 1. You're going to skip that next one and we're going to work those long single crochets. And the easiest way for me to show you is you want to go right to the left of that first long single crochet that you made a couple rows back. So I just work it right along the side there. Chain 1, and then again find that spot again. So one row we'll be working the long single crochets, and then the next row we always work into the V's of those long crochets. So that's after we have completed one of the, I like to call it a sequence, 4 rows, not counting our foundation right there, and you can see how they're going off to the side. This is called the double linen stitch. Starting back over at row 1, chain 1 and turn your work. Single crochet in the first, chain 1, and now we're working into those long stitches. Starting on the row 2, you'll do a single crochet in the first. Now we're working the long ones into that first space right here. chain 1, finding that next space, working along the left side of our previous long stitches. Chain 1, turn. Now we're on row 3, and row 3 is always going to start with 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. Notice that 2 went into the V of the long stitch, giving us the hint that we will be working into all of the long stitches. So you chain 1 and then just a single crochet. And this creates a really compact stitch, and so I think that this would also make a lovely blanket. Nice, warm, and cozy. Now we'll start on row 4. So that's a single crochet, chain 1, and long single crochets working into 2 rows below. Hi Linda. Linda's asking what size hook I'm using, and this is a 5mm. So on row 4, you see we're skipping that last stitch there and still working a single crochet into our last. So we have 2 segments done of our repeat patterns. That'll be an easy way for you to keep track of how many rows you do. And if you don't have time to watch the entire video today, I do strongly encourage you to either share this to your wall or save the video for the end technique of how I actually connect our headband to the ponytail ring. See, this side looks a little bit different, but that way I'm actually going to be crocheting around it, which is a little bit tricky of a technique, but I do know how irritating videos can get when you've already got the stitch down and you're just missing one last piece. Maybe you've got crazy kids at home or whatever, and like I said, you don't have time to watch the entire video. Also, it'll be posted to my page after it's all done, and so you can always come back to see the end technique. Okay, so we just finished row 4, and we're going to start back at row 1. Starting row 2. Now we'll start row 3, which always starts with 2 singles. The second one going into that long V. Hi, Pratina. Welcome. She's watching from Singapore. I absolutely love that. Okay. I love that I have people from all over the world that tune in. It's pretty cool. So this is row 4. I'm going to be starting back over at 1 now. And it always ends and begins the same. You'll always end with a single crochet in your last stitch, chain 1 and turn. Oops, split the stitches there. Don't like how that looks. So to remedy that, I'm going to get up underneath all of those stitches so you can't even see that I split my yarn. Working row 2. Start with a single and then immediately do the long. We started with a single and immediate long, so long single crochet for the end. Considered row 2, chain 1 and turn, single crochet in the next 2, followed by a chain, probably pick up the speed a little bit here now, just so this isn't, you know, a super long tutorial. And for those of you out there who have girls or have super long hair, I know that you got a ponytail ring somewhere in your house. I highly suggest checking the couches. So that looks like row 4. And we're back at 1. Hi Zena. I'm making a headband using the double linen stitch. And when I'm working small pieces like this too, I really try, once I have the pattern down and memorized, I really try to focus on my tension, because you guys have probably heard me talk a lot about how tension is so important. I would highly suggest, if you're trying to get better with your tension, that you just keep it in mind. If you're thinking about it, you know, it'll help you practice and be aware. So just a little hooker tip there. There's row 3 complete, starting on row 4. Looking to see, oh, our last row was just the single crochets worked into the V's. So now we need more long. Let's see here if I have, I don't like hearing my work slide across the wood. See if that helps. Also bring this up just a little. So I can hold my hands up a little bit higher. That noise drives me insane. Sorry about that, Rebecca. Okay, so looking at my work, okay, I started with a single and then a chain. Okay, so we're back on row 1. Are we back on row 1? Or did we just do row 1? It looks like we just did row 1. Okay, so row 2. And I saw that because I noticed the last row that we didn't do long crochets. And I know that row 2, we work into 2 rows below. Did I do a chain there? I don't know. I couldn't tell if I did a chain, but we're starting row 2. No chains. We go directly into our long stitch. Long stitch for row 4. Now we will start back over with row 1. Repetition, you guys, I'm telling you. It's the best way to become super familiar with a pattern or how stitches are worked together. And how perfect on you know, a little row like this, or a little project, I guess. Starting on row 2 here. Rebecca, are you still having issues seeing my work? I know that sometimes videos can be a little bit laggy. Maybe I need to move it back just a tad. Center it. Sorry if the camera's a little wobbly. Hopefully that's a little bit better view for you. I can tell that I ended with a long single followed by immediately by the single crochet here. So that means that was row 2, starting on row 3 now. Row 4. Starting row 2. I'm not sure. From what I can see on my screen, Rebecca, all of what I'm doing is in the main portion of my screen. I do know sometimes if you don't actually click on the video and go into the screen, on the bottom right corner, there should be a symbol for you to expand it over your entire screen, and that might help. Because I've checked on my side, and I don't think I'm seeing the same thing that you are. This is one of my little tips that I use when I'm making scarves. Sometimes even blankets, if you can find a alligator clip big enough. It's basically so my work doesn't drag along the bottom of this board and the fibers of the wood, you know, start eating up on the yarn there. In case you were wondering what I was doing. A little hooker tip. Trying to be mindful of where I'm working so you guys can see. See how it's going in a line? We just completed row 4, row 1, row 2, single long, wish I had another alligator clip up the other side. So this would be row 3, single chain, worked into the long stitches, the long single crochets. So row 3 is single chain, single in the long chain, single in the long chain, so on and so forth. So we're skipping over this next one in row 4. Starting the sequence over. See how long we are. It looks like we're probably about halfway. That's how it's looking. Let's just get my other example piece here. So yeah, not too much more to go. Hi Yvonne. Well, luckily I will have the pattern posted onto my page so you can watch it at your leisure. when you're ready. For right now, you could go dig through your couches for a ponytail holder. Okay, so just looking. So that looks like row 2 to me. Row 3 is single, single chain. And then I can see that those long stitches are right there at the top to be worked into. Hey, Stacy. See, one of my best hooker friends just jumped on. Happy to see you on here. Okay, we're on row 4. Working the long single crochets. Okay, we're starting back over at row 1. If you are still following along. Row 2 of the pattern. Single long. So if you can remember how the beginning of the row starts and ends, it'll be easy to keep track of where you're at as far as the sequence is concerned. Row 3 is single, single. So ending with a single, single. Row 4, single chain, long. Chain, single to end. That was row 4. Single chain, but then single into the top of the longs. Single long chain. This is row 2. Starting row 3 with a single, single. Single, single to end. single chain long for row 4. So we should be ending with a long chain single. We want it to match. So long chain single. Now, if you're creating for a little girl, the headband that I'm making for myself or for my daughter, about right now is when I would start to see how, like, I'm guessing that this would definitely fit a little girl right now, as long as it is. This is probably, of course, I wouldn't have my measuring tape handy. I'm going to eyeball this and say it's about maybe 10 inches, 10 inches long. So the way that I test to see how well it fits is I'll just wrap it around my head, and you want it to have some stretch. Like, you don't want this to really loosely fit around your head, or it's going to slip right off. So I will pull it to see if, do I like the stretch? You know, maybe you're ready to already connect it, but I can tell this ain't going to be long enough for my noggin. Whoops. I literally just about snapped myself in the eye, you guys. But I'm not far off. I'm guessing maybe 2 more of our row sequences should be plenty for this. But even just trying to fit it, you can see that the stitches got a little bit stretched out. Looks like we ended on row 4 here. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, wind this back up. I have some huge alligator clips, but they're MIA, so this little guy will have to work. Sandy's asking, do you have a pattern for easy for baby booties? She loves the hat patterns. Thank you very much for that compliment. I don't have any for baby booties, but Whistle and Ivy, I believe her name is it Rachel? I might be thinking Repeat Crafter Me. Whistle and Ivy has some really easy baby booty patterns to follow. She's one of my favorite crocheters, so I would suggest checking out some of her work if you're looking for easy baby booties. Okay, so again, that was row 2. We're going to be starting this one now with a single. This is row 4. Now back to row 1. Row 2, single long, ending with long single, starting on row 3, single single, and row 4. So that's a single chain on row 4 and long singles. Man, the wind is really howling here today. We're starting back on row 1 here. Row 2, row 3, single single, row 4, single chain, and then a long single crochet. Just gonna look again because it feels like it should be about long enough. I keep dropping everything. I don't have enough space up in here. Still kind of itty bitty, isn't it? Gotta suffer through with me a little bit longer, you guys. But like I said, if you don't feel like watching the repetition, if you already have the pattern down, you can always come back probably here in about 15 minutes or so and watch the way that I end this. But for many of you, maybe you don't have anything else better going on and you like hanging out with me, which I'm happy that you guys are here. Hopefully I don't slaughter this name, but thank you. Is it Lakshima? Lakshima? I tried. See, my honey's on here. Okay, so we're starting back at 1. Well, he was on here for a fleeting moment. I'm working row 2. You're still trying to follow along with me here. Need it just a little bit longer to show you guys that finishing technique. I believe that's row 4. So that means starting back at 1. Is that row? Sorry, had a message come through that got me a little distracted. I think, pretty sure that was row 1. Yep. So single long chain. Working row 3. Which row 3 always starts with a single single. So we are doing a single single for the end as well. Row 4, single chain. This was row 1. And we're working row 2. Row 3. You guys, the Zelda music haunts me in my dreams. My boys are obsessed with Zelda, and even though they have it relatively quiet upstairs right now, I can hear, I don't, you would think I would know the names of all the little ditties, but I don't. Just hear dee dee doo dee doo dee 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 dee. So I believe that one was, okay, so when I'm ending, that was 5, or excuse me, row 4. Humorous that I say, I'm making this for either me or my daughter, like it's gonna be mine. I make my daughter stuff and she doesn't wear it. Like ever. Hey now, hey now. That's looking a lot closer, isn't it? And this is after there's been some stretch. So I think that we are ready to start on how you're going to finish off this headband to where it is crocheted. Like actually crocheted on and not just, not just sewn on. I don't know, I feel like it gives it a little bit more professional of a look. Okay, so just like you would have your work facing you, here is getting ready to start this new row. Make sure that your piece isn't twisted at all before you start this. And we're just going to kind of match up right here. We're going to kind of match up. We're going to be crocheting just right over the top of the ponytail now. So the way that I would do that, I'm going to go ahead and do my chain 1. And you're going to go through the stitch, but you want to make sure that your yarn is behind the ponytail, just like so. And actually, I think that I did the other ones in the half double, so I'm actually going to work this half double right over to make sure that it's nice and secure in place. My work is not twisted at all. And then for each stitch that you have, and you don't have to be real precise with it, but we've done 2, should have a total of 4. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So it's going to be looking like this, but when I did mine, I didn't like how these chains looked, but it's nice and secure on there now. So you can fasten off. Probably don't even need, you know, one as long, quite as long as mine. So that's how your piece should be looking so far. Now I take my needle. Whoops, look at that yarn getting all splitty on me. Okay, now I can see that my seam that I did, which this does not make a huge deal because when you wear it, it's on the back of your head, and chances are people aren't going to be looking quite as close. So I kind of fold these stitches over because I want to hide that. I want to hide this here. I'm trying to remember just exactly how I did this. It might be easier. Okay. Sorry, had to find where I was coming out of. All right. So we fold our work, and now basically you are just going to be sewing this down. So I've secured that first one, and I just pinch it to where it's going to line up pretty evenly. And what's this stitch called? Basically, I'm just going back and forth. It's not a whip stitch. I'm not a sewer, and I don't want to offend any of the sewers I might have, but I'm just following along my finger as I go through. I use the, I guess, the feel technique. And I'm not pulling them super tight either. This will be the inside. And when you come along to the edge, just so you don't have this like extra hangy, I like to pay special attention right here when I'm at the end. Let's see if I can get a better shot of it. So here's where that last end is coming out of. Just to secure it closed, kind of pinch. I might go over it, you know, twice. And then I'm going to weave that end in where the inside of that is. Or you could even decipher, you know, which end do I want to be the inside or outside of my work. It might not even matter to you at all. But it's looking like this one. I don't really like how this side looks as much. Again, this can be total personal preference. And now, like I did on the other side, I'm going to weave my end in. I should have mentioned before I started weaving that after you get that first layer, or you end it, and before you've cut your yarn or anything, and you have it around your ponytail, to pull up a long loop and try it on. Whether it's for you or your little one at home, try it on because it's easy to add or take a few rows out if need be. So that's how it's looking. I'm going to use this as the outside of my work. Let's see here, just to give you guys an idea. I will, yeah, I'm looking like a hot mess. Let's not talk about that, right? Trying to, worried my camera was gonna, okay, hey guys, hey. So here's the headband that we just made. And let's see if, you know, my eyeballing it. See, if I would have tried this guy on, Oh, my hair looks like a hot mess. I would have taken a few of the rows out because I actually like it to fit just a little bit tighter, but my stitches aren't being pulled quite as much. Please go out, buddy. I'm almost finished. So as you can see, and here's the back of it, if you wanted to see, you know, how the back will look. Like I said, I like mine to be a little bit tighter. I'm now wishing I would have, you know, taken my own advice and taken a few of the rows out. It would be hard to do now because I did secure my ends. But that's it, you guys. A quick work-up little headband. You could use it as a sweatband or whatever. I like using it with also a ponytail. But I'm liking my purple one better because it has better hold. So that's it. That is it for today, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this easy to follow tutorial and that you're going to make some headbands of your own. These would also be easy to embellish. You could put a little flower on there or, I don't know, any kind of appliques. I've been wanting to do a sloth applique because I think that they are pretty dang adorable. But get creative with it. Oh, and if you wanted to see how the other headband that I did without the ponytail, here's another one with the linen stitch. And I believe if you wanted to make one just like this, you can do, I believe I started with 20 stitches, you know, because you need to have an odd number. If you want to work one of these patterns or the linen stitch out here, you need to start with an odd number. This is one without the ponytail. And if you're interested in hearing how I closed it up, here, it looks knitted, but what I did was I brought my ends together and I just went through the outside loops. So if you prefer a headband without the ponytail, this guy's for you. Anyways, I'm gonna hop up off here, do something with all of this, since you know I've got so many amazing places I need to be and everything. Just kidding. My butt's staying at home for the whole day. I'm gonna just scroll through, make sure I didn't miss any key questions. I do like to go back and check to see what you guys are saying, see if I missed anything. So while I'm on here, if you have a question, I see Deborah's asking what yarn is best. Well, I think that really depends on what you prefer, you know, what types of fibers you like to work with. I think that when you're using the ponytail ring, that it's going to give you the stretch that you need, so you don't need to worry so much about the fiber that you're using being stretchy, because that's what the ponytail is for. I think that cotton would be amazing though. I love the way that cotton feels, especially if you can find, which it might be hard to do right now, but like a cotton bamboo blend is really nice. This is acrylic, 100% acrylic, and it's really super soft, and I think that if you use the cotton, it would be good for, somebody had messaged me about wanting to use these to keep their hair up out of their face while they do their makeup. And I think cotton would be good because it holds its shape really well once it's washed. It's always a little weird when I turn my camera this way because now I'm like wide and I don't know, it's a little bit awkward. And let's see here. Yvonne is asking, what hook did you use? I used a 5mm hook. However, this pattern the bigger the hook you use, the bigger your stitches are going to be, and also the bigger the holes are going to be. So if you wanted to start with a smaller hook to get, you know, about the same amount of coverage, you're going to want to make sure that you do more stitches if you use a smaller hook, and vice versa. If you use a much bigger hook, you'll maybe only need maybe 5 stitches around. You know, it really kind of varies. But that's about it, you guys.
Have a cookie.
You don't need any cookies. I'm gonna hop off of here, go make some lunch. If you found this tutorial helpful, please, please, please leave me a message or a comment on here and let me know. Can you go out, buddy? Yeah. Thank you. And I have, if you received my newsletter, you probably got that yesterday. You'll know that I'm going to be doing an amigurumi workshop for all types of different little, well, I haven't decided the animal yet, but if you're unfamiliar with amigurumi, it's anything, it's little, you know, little stuffed animals. Let's see here. I know I have a few more examples pretty close by that I can show you, like this pig and the polar bear, and I don't know, I have a few other things around here that I'm not going to get down, but I will be doing an amigurumi workshop. If you're feeling intimidated by that, I'm going to encourage you not to, because I've kind of made it my personal mission to make things super easy for you guys. And I would love to see your face there when I do that. And also the popcorn stitch is coming up, which I touched on the popcorn stitch in my bobble letter tutorial that you may have seen. I don't know, lots of fun and naughty things happening over here in Craftlandia. Thanks for everybody who jumped on today and chatted with me. Everybody who's always messaging me, encouraging my work. You guys mean the world to me, and I appreciate you. Please don't forget that you have something to offer the world, and that I think you're amazing. I love connecting with you guys, and I hope that I see you all on my next live. Take care, guys. Happy hooking. Talk to you soon.